Hi, have you ever made a decision and then thought to yourself, what the heck just happened? That is so unlike me. Well, tonight we are going to dive into what factors go into decisions that we make, and are they conscious or are they unconscious? Hello, I'm Karen Seltz. Welcome to Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love everything having to do with the subconscious mind. And the more I study it, the more I realize that we are nothing but a set of programs most of the time. Like most of us are unconscious about how we make decisions, how we choose our thoughts and emotions, or maybe choose is the wrong word, how we come to think the way we do, how we come to feel the way we do, and how we come to act the way we do. If you've been following me for any time at all, you know that I'm a huge Dr. Joe Dispenza fan. And I kind of nerd out on his stuff because it makes so much sense. It explains so much of what we do. And it is a roadmap for where we want to go, how we can change absolutely anything about us, about our environment, our health, our situations, who we be in the world. And I use that on purpose. Even though I'm a grammar nerd, I still use who we be because it's about your ways of being. And I'm going to back up and explain a little bit about what Dr. Joe says about habits or addictions even. So anytime that we feel a certain emotion, it releases chemicals into our bloodstream that are immediate. And those chemicals will produce corresponding thoughts. So if you have a thought like, or you feel like, oh, why does this always happen to me? Maybe somebody cuts you off in traffic and you have that thought like, why does this always happen to me? Well, then the feelings of that will create more thoughts. Like, remember last time this happened, or it brings you all kinds of different evidence. So you can support, yep, yeah, this always happens to me. And then you get to be right, which could produce different types of emotions. But it's like a loop. Those thoughts produce more emotions, which release those chemicals, which produce more corresponding thoughts. And we get stuck in these loops. And we become addicted to these states of being that we don't like. So if I said to you, how do you like being a victim? You'd be like, heck no, that's disgusting. I'm not a victim, but things keep happening to me. And it's really hard. It was really hard for me, at least, to see myself because I had all kinds of stories and justifications that proved that I was indeed being victimized, that I was wronged, that I was the one who was right and I was a saint and blah, 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 blah. But those stories that I kept telling, because I got some kind of unconscious payoff, which we will go into in a minute, kept perpetuating that cycle of me creating situations where I was a victim or I was being perceived as a victim. I was perceiving myself as a victim. And then I was telling the story, which then reinforced my identity as a victim. Now, here's the funny, I think this is hilarious. I would say, oh, I can't stand people who are victims when I was in that situation where I was a victim all the time. I couldn't see it. I couldn't see myself that I was creating this identity of a victim. I did not see it at all. I didn't think I complained. But that's the whole part about waking up. It's like you get to see like, oh my gosh. And you get to be gentle with yourself and have grace. Like when I first started seeing it, I'm like, oh gosh, that's disgusting. I'm gross. I'm unlovable. I'm unworthy. Because I was judging people who had victim stories or victim consciousness so harshly. And that's all projection is it's taking some part of you that you think is unlovable, unwanted, and throwing it out on the first person who walks by. So anytime someone says anything, oh, that person's a victim. But it was me not wanting to love that part of me and not thinking that part was acceptable. So when I started to reintegrate that part and say, oh my gosh, wow, I could see I was being a victim there. What was I trying to get? And the secondary gain is what you want to look at. Now, I love Tony Robbins many, many years ago did this thing called the 6 basic human needs. And if you look at those, you can find a lot of them in your day-to-day behavior. Like you're trying to get these needs met, but the way we do it is all wrong. It doesn't work, but we don't know any other way. So we keep doing it. And we're unconscious that we're even doing it at all. So I'll give you an example. One of the needs is for stability or safety, for things to be predictable or the same, which makes sense. Like a lot of us like routines in a lot of ways. But another one is the need for things to be different, novelty, which can show up as drama or chaos if you don't get that need met in a healthy way. So if you have ever not had that need met and you've created drama, now you know why, because it is a need. We need novelty. We crave it. We crave the unknown. And yet that's one of our biggest fears. So go figure. The human mind is so complex and it's fascinating to dive into it. So what I invite you to do is to look at one of your behaviors where I would say like you didn't act a way that you're proud of. Okay, so then look at, okay, if you were an observer with no judgment, it's not right or wrong, it's not bad or good, it just is. Like you're a scientist, okay? So you're observing your behaviors. Well, how would you classify them? And there are these traps that we fall into, like the need to be right, the need to prove that we're lovable or worthy, the need for significance. And we all have these things. And we go about these, getting those needs met in the wrong ways. So how would you classify a behavior? Were you acting like a victim? Were you trying to be right? Were you trying to create chaos because you needed some novelty? So look at that and say, interesting, like a scientist, say, that's very interesting. I see that I was acting like a victim or wearing a mask or attacking someone, whatever it was that you were doing. And then go deeper. Say, I wonder what that person, like just say your name, I wonder what Karen was thinking when she was acting like a victim. What did she really want? What did she need underneath that? Because in life, at least spiritually, and I 100% believe that in life too, everything that we do or say is either an extension of love or a call for healing, a call for love. Like, I don't feel loved, love me, love me, love me. Or I have so much love that I'm here and I'm going to give it to you. So what form did that take? What kind of love were you requiring? Did you want to fit in? Did you want to belong? Did you want someone to just say, hey, it's going to be okay? Did you want to feel safe? Did you want to feel seen, accepted, heard, loved just the way you were? And when you can look at that, just from that outside perspective, where you have no attachment, no judgment, that's the key. Definitely no judgment. And think about, okay, how could I get that need met in a healthy way? Like, what are 10 ways I could meet that need in a healthy way? And I would say at least 5, maybe 8 of them, try to figure out how you could meet them yourself without needing it from anybody else. That was the key to me really, really starting to like myself and then eventually to love myself and accept myself, was meeting those needs myself. Because I had all these stories that I had to be a certain way for people to accept me. And I had to earn love. And it is a never-ending job. I tell you, like you can't earn someone's love. You just can't. I mean, we try, and people want us to think that we get to earn it because then it keeps us on the hook doing things for them. But real love is given. It is given unconditionally. You cannot earn it. And we get to start loving ourselves with that kind of love, like the same love that God has for you. You get to love yourself like that. Like no matter what you do, no matter how you show up or don't show up, no matter what you say, no matter what you don't say, what you think, what you feel, regardless, I love you the same, no matter what. It's a gift. And I tell you, I practice this in my life, and it does take practice. We think, oh, it comes naturally. Bullshit. It does not come naturally because we all want something. A lot of times that's just how we are. And that's the ego mind creeping in. So when you catch yourself, you think you're being loving. If you have an opinion, you're not being loving. If you have a judgment, you're not being loving. If you think, oh, I wish they would do this. I wish they would take my advice. I wish this. I wish that. I hope this. You're not being neutral or unconditionally loving. Like you want something. So check yourself. Because for me, unconditional love is caring for the happiness of another person without any regard for what I'm going to get back. Now, for me, this is much easier to do with strangers or acquaintances than it is in close relationships like my family or romantic relationships or even friendships. Sometimes, if you know how it is, you ever have a friendship it's imbalanced, like they're always coming to you saying, oh, can you listen to me? I have this problem. Or can you help me move? Or can you help me with this? Or they don't ask you how you're doing. They tell you all about their problems and then they're like, okay, thanks, talk to you later. And they never asked you how you were. Well, I used to have a ton of those. And then I started noticing, I'm like, we talked for an hour. Not one time did they ask me a question about myself. Interesting. And I started not putting any more effort into those types of friendships. And they disappeared. They fizzled out. And it's not like I have a balance sheet. I'm not suggesting that because that is not unconditional love. But what I'm saying is, you know when there's reciprocity, the people that when you are in a bind that you can go to, and they're not going to ask any questions. If you just say, hey, do you have capacity to support me? I could really use some support. And you're the same way, like you are that for those people as well. But it goes both ways. And those are the kind of relationships that I invite you to form, even though sometimes they're very scary, especially for women to ask for support. It's not difficult for women to bitch and complain to each other. It is difficult to say, I want to complain. I want to complain because I'm hurting. I feel this. My partner did this. I'm interpreting it this way, and I'm making it mean this about me, because that's our thing. If we're complaining, we have made meaning out of someone else's behavior and made it mean something about us. Otherwise, we wouldn't complain unless we're creating chaos and drama, unless we're trying to get attention in a different way, which is something to look at. So, how do you make these decisions? Unconsciously, you are looking for something, right? When you hear somebody say, do a presentation and they're going to make you an offer, or you're giving a presentation and you make somebody an offer, how do people decide whether you are their person? Well, I would say it comes down to authenticity and connection. Like, did you actually establish a connection with your audience? Whether it's one-on-one, it could be with a partner, a friend, or it could be you making an offer. Are you being authentic, or are you doing a bait and switch? We've all been there. We've all said, oh yeah, come to my free event. And then they don't tell you until the very end that they're making you an offer. How about if they said, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm giving you in this amount of time. I would give you more if I could, but this is all I have in an hour, all I can deliver. And at the end, I will present an opportunity if you want to work further with me. Like, I'm like, cool. When people do that, cool. Thanks for telling me. If I resonate with what you're saying, I'll listen. If I don't, I'll get off the call. But how often have we had friends even call us when they got involved in network marketing companies, and they bait and switch us. They are really nice, but they want something. How about if you just tell them, hey, I want to share with you what I've been up to and run it by you, and I want to see what you've been up to. Just be honest, don't lie. So we make these decisions based on a lot of different factors. One is obviously authenticity. Do we believe the person? And that has a lot to do with their language, with their vocal patterns. And we're listening subconsciously. Our minds are listening for certain notes, for certain patterns. Like at the end of a sentence, do they go up like a question? If they do, we don't perceive them as an authority. So, like, we might not be able to tell you why we don't trust somebody, but we know. We know. And I had a situation recently. My dentist, I went into the dentist with a super bad toothache, and I'm like, I need a root canal. And I pointed to the tooth that I thought it was, and she's like, oh no, it's the one behind that. That one has a crack in it. She did no other test. She did an x-ray. She's like, nothing shows on the x-ray. So I trusted her, and I got a root canal the next day. The pain did not go away. I've had a lot of root canals. The pain usually goes away. And so I called the dentist on Monday. This was like on a Friday. And I said, I want to come in. You did the wrong tooth. I'm 90% sure you did the wrong tooth. And she blew me off. She blew me off. And then I went to the office with my daughter the next day for a cleaning. She said, give it a few days, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I went to get this problem fixed. There was the endodontist she recommended, couldn't get me in for 10 days. And I'm like, I got to get this fixed. And I live pretty close to this city in Mexico. It's a 3-hour drive where there's a zillion great dentists. So I made an appointment. I crossed the border, and somebody offered me a root canal for 40% less than the dentist I was going to. And I'm like, I thought for a second. I went in, I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. I'll talk to them. My body immediately was like, hell no, hell no. So I got out of there so fast. And I went to the dentist that I had the appointment scheduled with, and they were fantastic. And for the first time in 12 days, I had no pain. So listening to your body, that your subconscious tells you these things too. We think it's our body, it could be our intuition, but it's also the subconscious has a lot of things. It's scanning the environment. It's taking in so many pieces of information. So listen, when you get those hits, listen, just listen. But also notice that when you are giving a presentation or you are enrolling someone into something, they're listening. They're listening to what you are not saying. So make sure that you're in integrity. Make sure your words, your tones, they match. You ever have somebody say, oh, this is so funny, I'm so excited to be here. And you're like, sure you are, right? They have a fake smile. You can tell they're so scared. My recommendation is say, gosh, wow, I haven't done this in a while. I'm really nervous and I'm excited. So how about you guys? Are you a little nervous? I mean, just call it out, call it what it is. And then people will relax and they're like, oh, that's what I was picking up. Because if you don't match, people are going to be like, she's full of crap. And they're going to tune out. They're not going to listen. They're certainly not going to buy what you're offering. They're not. So pay attention to everything. Everything matters, especially your voice. And your intentions, your energy behind the words is so important. It communicates volumes. The research shows that 7% of our communication, just seven, can you see it all? Is our words. The rest is nonverbal. It's your tone. It's the pauses. It's the pitch. It's the variable speed. Like I said, do you go up at the end of a sentence? Or do you go down like an authority? And these are things that you can learn. They're skills, but they're also, when you are in integrity, when you are being authentic, it will just come across. you're not going to be questioning yourself. If you know what you're talking about and you're coming from a heart-centered place and you're not blowing smoke up anybody's butt, then it will come across as sincere. But the moment you don't know and you try to pretend you do, you just lost most of your audience. They don't know why, but their subconscious is like, nope. And it remembers the times that you've been bamboozled, that you've been cheated, that you believe somebody that you shouldn't have. And it's looking for all those little cues, and they're in your voice much of the time, or the body language. And when it finds those, it'll be like, nope, don't trust this person, run away. That's supposed to be an X. I wasn't looking there. It's an X. So I love the subconscious mind, and I hope you do too, because it controls 95% of what we feel, what we think, what we do. And until we become aware of what we're thinking, feeling, and doing, we can't have any control over it. So my invitation is to start paying attention. Look at your life like a scientist and figure out what are those needs that are underneath those behaviors that are not representative of who you're choosing to be consciously. And then start figuring out what needs you can meet yourself and what needs you can meet in a healthy way. Like maybe you can't meet your need for novelty yourself without going on a roller coaster, or doing something, asking a stranger to race. I don't know. There's all kinds of ways you can meet that need. And if you need inspiration, email me. I'm happy to come up with lots of ways. I think this is really fun because I have that personality type. Like I like fun stuff. I like risks and dares, and I find them fun. So I hope this was supportive. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe below. I will see you right here next week. Thank you.